He took his mistress on a secret date, but the waiter handed him divorce papers instead. He panicked. That's the headline. That's the punchline to the cruel, elaborate joke my marriage had become. But the story didn't start with his panic. It started with my cold, sharp, and utterly clear realization. My finger hovered over the text message I was about to send. It wasn't a long message. It was just 3 words. He's there. Go! The recipient was a man I'd only met once, a private investigator who was currently sitting at the bar of the most expensive restaurant in the city, looking like just another businessman. But in his pocket was an envelope, and that envelope was my freedom. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. Mine was being served precisely at 8:15 p.m., alongside a seared scallop appetizer and a $250 bottle of wine that I knew, for a fact, my husband Thomas was planning to put on our joint credit card. It's a strange thing, isn't it? What happens when a person who has given nothing but loyalty, nothing but trust, is finally pushed past their breaking point? You don't just crack. You don't just fall apart. You change. You become something harder. Something focused. How is everyone doing out there? I really hope this story finds you well, wherever you're watching from. Maybe you're settled in for the night. Maybe you're on your lunch break. I hope the weather where you are is calm, because you're about to listen to the story of the hurricane that was my life. My name is Amelia, and this is the story of how I went from being the reliable, supportive rock of a wife to the woman who sat in a rented sedan across the street, watching through binoculars as my husband's perfect, secret life imploded. I watched him take a sip of wine, laugh at something the woman across from him said, and then I watched the waiter walk up. I saw the moment the professional smile on Thomas's face froze, then shattered. This story, it's everything. It's betrayal, it's discovery, and it's about finding the strength you never knew you had. I am going to tell you every single part of it. So please stick with me. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and maybe hit that like button if you've ever felt like you were being taken for granted. Trust me when I say, this is a story you are going to enjoy so much, one you will want to talk about in the comments. You'll keep coming back for more. But let me start from the beginning. Because I wasn't always the woman in the surveillance van. For 10 years, I was the woman in the kitchen, making his coffee just the way he liked it, believing the man I married was the man he pretended to be. I met Thomas when I was 24. I was just finishing my doctorate in art history, and he was a charismatic, ambitious junior associate at a major architectural firm. I fell for him. Hard. I believed in marriage. I believed it was a partnership, a fortress you build together, brick by brick, to keep the world out. I believed in honesty, in loyalty, in shared dreams. These were the foundations of my world. We built a life. Or rather, I helped him build his. I put my own career on hold, my research, my writing, to become a part-time university lecturer. It paid the bills, but more importantly, it was flexible. It gave me the time to support his climb. He worked long, grueling hours. He was brilliant, I never denied that. And I was his support system. I was the one who networked at his dull corporate parties, who remembered his boss's wife's birthday, who proofread his proposals until 3 a.m. I was the planner. I managed our finances. I paid every bill. I cooked every meal. I was trusting. I was giving. And looking back, I was willingly blind. My greatest flaw wasn't that I was stupid. My flaw was that I believed the lie because I needed the life we were building to be real. I ignored the small things. The late nights at the office, that became every night. The way he started guarding his phone, claiming it was sensitive client information. I excused it all. He's stressed. I'd tell my friends. He's just so close to making partner. This is our future he's building. The first real crack, the one I should have seen, was about 8 months ago. It was nothing dramatic. It was a receipt. I was cleaning out his suit jacket before taking it to the cleaners, and a small, folded receipt fell out of the inner pocket. It wasn't from a restaurant or a bar. It was from a jewelry store. A very, very expensive jewelry store. On it was one item, a Peretti heart pendant. My own birthday had just passed. So had our anniversary. Christmas was months away. I felt a small, cold knot in my stomach. But I pushed it down. I rationalized it. He's holding on to it for a surprise. I told myself. Maybe he's just waiting for the right moment. I even felt a little guilty for finding it, for spoiling his surprise. So I put the receipt in the back of my jewelry box and I waited. Of course, the audience knows what's coming. You're probably screaming at the screen right now. Amelia, it's not for you. But you have to understand, when you're inside the picture frame, you can't see how crooked it is. The weeks turned into a month. No necklace appeared. Thomas was different. He was more attentive, in a way that felt rehearsed. He'd bring home flowers, grocery store carnations, not the peonies he knew I loved. He'd text, "I love you" at random hours, but when he was home, he seemed miles away. He was covering his tracks, but I, in my desperate need to believe, saw it as him trying. We had always talked about having children. It was my deepest wish. But for years, Thomas had put it off. "The timing isn't right, babe. Just let me make partner first. We need a bigger nest egg." But then, about 6 months ago, right after I found the necklace receipt, he sat me down on the sofa. He took both my hands in his. His eyes were sincere, or at least, they were a perfect imitation of sincerity. "Amelia," he said, his voice soft, "I've been thinking. We've been putting it off for too long. I'm ready. Let's start trying for a baby." I cried. I actually wept with relief and joy. That one conversation erased all my doubts. The late nights, the secretive phone, even the forgotten necklace. It all just evaporated. He wasn't pulling away. He was planning our future. He was finally ready. And I believed him. I threw myself into it. I started tracking my cycle. I stopped drinking coffee. I started taking prenatal vitamins. I was all in. I was all in, right up until 3 weeks ago. It was a Tuesday. I had a late lecture that got canceled at the last minute. I came home early, excited to surprise Thomas, maybe suggest we order in. I walked into our dark house. It was quiet. He was supposed to be working late, but his car was in the driveway. My heart did a strange little flutter. I smiled. He must have come home early to surprise me. I walked quietly down the hall toward our home office. The door was closed, but I could see a sliver of light underneath. And I heard his voice. He wasn't on a work call. He was laughing. It was a low, intimate, private laugh. The one he used to use with me. "No," he was saying, his voice a murmur. "She's at the university. She's always working. She has no idea." My blood went cold. My feet felt like they were nailed to the floor. "Don't worry, baby," he continued. "The new lease is signed. It's all happening. Just a few more weeks. You just have to be patient." There was a pause. "God, I can't wait to see you again. Did you wear the necklace I got you?" "Yeah. I knew you'd love it. I can't wait to take it off you." I stood there. I don't know for how long. The words, "I can't wait to take it off you," echoed in the silent hallway, mixing with the sound of my own blood rushing in my ears. The Peretti heart pendant. The late nights. The sensitive client information. The new lease. My entire life, the entire 10-year structure I had built my world inside, wasn't just cracked. It was a fake, a movie set. And I had just walked backstage and seen the scaffolding. My first impulse wasn't to scream. It wasn't to burst in there and demand to know who she was. My first impulse, the one that took over my body before my brain could even catch up, was to be silent. I was a historian. I was a researcher. I was a good, supportive wife. But in that second, I became something else. I became an archivist of my own husband's betrayal. I backed away, step by silent step, my feet finding the carpet runners without a sound. I went into the guest bedroom, on the other side of the house, and shut the door. I sat on the edge of the bed, the one we kept for guests who never visited, and I just breathed. I heard the murmur of his voice stop. A few minutes later, the faint click of his office door. Footsteps in the hall. "Amelia!" he called out. His voice was light, normal. "Babe? Is that you? Your car's in the drive." I swallowed. I looked at my reflection in the dark window. The woman staring back was a stranger. Pale, with eyes that were suddenly, frighteningly clear. "In here," I managed to call out. My voice was a little shaky. Just have a headache." He opened the door, and the hallway light silhouetted him. He was all charm, all concern, the perfect mask of a loving husband. "Hey," he said, walking in, his face sinking into a practiced frown of worry. "You okay? You look pale." Bad day at the university. He came over and sat next to me on the bed. He reached out to rub my shoulder. And the moment his fingers touched my sweater, I had to use every ounce of self-control I possessed not to flinch, not to vomit. His touch felt like ice. It felt like a lie. This was the hand he used to type texts to her. This was the arm he would put around her. Yeah, I whispered. Just a migraine, I think. Came on suddenly. I thought I'd come home early and lie down. Oh, poor baby. He leaned in and kissed my temple. It was the first betrayal. Not the affair itself. Not the phone call. It was this casual, affectionate, utterly meaningless kiss from a man who was actively, consciously, planning to ruin me. A man who was building a new life with someone else, using my support, my time, and my money to do it. I'm slammed, he sighed, standing up, performing his role perfectly. Just finished a huge client call. These guys are impossible. I'm probably going to be in the office for another hour at least. Can I get you anything? Aspirin? Water? No, I said, managing to look up at him. I needed to see his face. I needed to burn this image into my memory, the face of my husband, lying to me so easily, so completely. No, I'm fine. I'll just rest. Don't worry about me. All right. He smiled. That brilliant, charismatic smile that had won over my family, his bosses, and me. You rest up. We've got a baby to make, remember. And he winked. He winked. He actually stood there, fresh off a call with his mistress, and dangled the one dream I held most dear in front of my face like a treat for a dog. He saw my deepest vulnerability, my desire for a child, and he wasn't just ignoring it. He was using it as a smokescreen, a distraction, a cruel, cynical tool to keep me compliant and happy while he drained our bank accounts and prepared his exit. That was the moment the shock turned into something else. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't just anger. It was a cold, hard, crystalline rage. It settled in my stomach, heavy and solid. He left, closing the guest room door softly. I waited until I heard his office door click shut again. And then I went to our bedroom. I lay down on my side of the bed, pulling the covers up to my chin. I was pretending to sleep. I was rehearsing. An hour later, he came to bed. He was quiet, thinking I was asleep. I lay still, my breathing even and slow. I felt the bed dip as he got in. I felt the glow of his phone screen on the ceiling. I could hear the faint tap-tap-tap of him texting. I could even hear, just barely, the ghost of a smile in his breathing. He was texting her. Good night. I love you. Soon. He put his phone on the nightstand, rolled over, away from me, always away from me, and within 5 minutes, he was breathing the deep, easy sigh of a man without a single care in the world. A man who believed he was smarter than everyone. A man who believed I was stupid. I lay awake all night. My mind, the one I trained to analyze and catalog art, to find patterns and trace provenance, it finally turned its full, cold focus onto my own life. I thought about the last 10 years, the dinners I'd hosted, the vacations I'd planned, the promotions he'd gotten, after pulling all-nighters that I had supported, bringing him coffee, proofreading his work, talking him through his anxieties. I thought about my doctorate, gathering dust, the book I was supposed to write, the colleagues I'd lost touch with, and I thought about the necklace, the new lease. By the time the sun started to turn the edges of our curtains gray, the grief was gone. The shock was gone. I was just empty and focused. The next morning, I waited until he left for the gym. He was always so meticulous about his appearance. I understood why now. It wasn't for me. The moment his car pulled out of the driveway, I was on the phone. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. It rang 3 times. Clara, I said before she could even say hello. Amelia? What's wrong? You sound weird. My sister, Clara. She's a forensic accountant. She's practical, sharp, and has never, not once, liked Thomas. She called him Smiley. He smiles too much, Ames, she'd said after our engagement party. Nobody's that happy for no reason. He's selling something. I told her she was being cynical. I need your help, I said. I need you to tell me how to find out if someone is hiding money. Legally. There was a dead silence on the line. Then, Clara's voice, all business. Who? She asked. Who do you think? Another silence. Oh, Amelia. Her voice softened for a second, and that's what almost broke me. Amelia, what did he do? I don't have time to explain, I said, walking to his home office. My office now. Just tell me where to start. Okay, she said. Okay. Don't panic. First, do not, I repeat, do not confront him. Do you hear me? Do not cry. Do not yell. You are the same, happy, supportive wife you were yesterday. Understand? I understand. Good. He thinks you're stupid. We're going to use that. Now, you manage the joint accounts, right? You pay the bills. Yes. Always. Okay. Log in. Right now. We're not looking for big purchases. We're looking for patterns. Small, recurring transfers. Anything under $1,000. He'd set it up to look like a bill. A storage unit. A consulting fee, an LLC. I sat in his chair. His expensive, ergonomic chair. I opened my laptop and logged into our main bank account. The one I funded with my lecturer's salary, the one we paid the mortgage and the utilities from. His larger paycheck went into a high-yield investment account, he'd always said. An account I was a beneficiary of, but not a signatory on. It's just cleaner for my bonuses, he'd said. I scrolled through the statements. Bill, mortgage, car payment, grocery, and then I saw it. Clara! What? There's a transfer. $500. Every Friday. For the last 6 months. It's going to Candy Enterprises LLC. And you don't know what Candy Enterprises is. I've never seen it before, I whispered. Google it, Clara commanded. I typed it into the search bar. My heart was a stone. The company was registered in our state. It was a shell corporation. The registered agent, the address, it was a P.O. box. It's a shell, Clara. A P.O. box. Of course it is, she said, her voice grim. Okay, Ames. He's not just cheating. He's stealing. He's systematically bleeding your joint finances. He's planning to leave. And he's planning to leave you with nothing. I looked at the screen. $500. Every week. For 6 months. That was $12,000. What do I do? You do nothing, Clara said, and I could hear the anger in her voice, cold and sharp like mine. You keep paying the bills. You keep going to your classes. You keep smiling. And you. Amelia, this part is going to be hard. You keep trying for that baby. I felt sick. What? Why? Because he's using it to control you. To keep you distracted. We're going to use it right back. You are the hopeful, loving, slightly naive wife. And I am going to hire a private investigator. And we are going to find out what Candy Enterprises is. We're going to find the new lease. We're going to find her. And then Amelia, she paused. We are going to burn his entire fake world to the ground. I closed the laptop. The betrayal wasn't just the kiss or the money. It was the plan. The cruel, meticulous, long-term plan to dismantle my life, all while pretending to build one with me. The loving relationship, the shared dreams of a family, it was all a lie. A tool. Okay, I said, my voice no longer shaking. Okay, Clara. Burn it all. I hung up the phone with Clara, and the silence of my husband's expensive, well-appointed office felt different. It was no longer a shared space. It was his, and I was an intruder, a spy. I stood up, went to the bathroom, and was methodically sick. I rinsed my mouth, looked at my pale, trembling face in the mirror, and said to myself, Get it together, Amelia. This is the last time you're allowed to be weak. That evening was the hardest thing I had ever done. It was the true point of no return. Thomas came home right at 6:30, just like he always did on Wednesdays. I was in the kitchen, just like I always was. I was making his favorite meal, a complex chicken dish that took hours. The smell filled the house, a fragrant, comforting lie. Wow, babe, smells incredible, he said, walking in. He loosened his tie, the picture of a high-powered executive returning to his domestic bliss. He came up behind me as I stood at the stove and wrapped his arms around my waist. I went rigid. Every muscle in my body screamed. I could smell her on him. It was a faint, floral perfume, something light and sweet and completely different from my own. He was wearing her scent like a trophy, bringing it into my kitchen, into my home. He kissed the side of my neck. "Hard day," he murmured. "Just tired." I managed, forcing my body to relax, to lean back into his hold. It was like leaning against a corpse. "The university is just a lot right now." "Well, forget about that," he whispered, his hand sliding from my waist down to my hip. "Let's just relax tonight. Just you and me. And he gave my hip a suggestive squeeze. "Maybe we can do some planning for the baby." This was it. This was the test Clara had warned me about. He was using it. Using my body, my hope, to confirm his control. He needed to know I was still his, still the naive, hopeful wife, so he could continue to rob me blind. And I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that I had to let him. I had to play the part. "I'd like that," I whispered, turning in his arms. I forced myself to look up at him, to meet his eyes. I forced a small, tired smile. "I'd really like that, Thomas." His own smile widened. It was a smile of pure, arrogant satisfaction. He thought he had me. He thought I was his fool. "Good," he said, kissing me. The kiss was hollow. I felt nothing. It was like pressing my lips against cold marble. "Go get ready. I'll just check a few emails, then I'll be right up." I knew what check a few emails meant. It meant texting her, probably telling her he'd be unavailable for a few hours. "Have to handle the wife," he might say. "Keep her happy." We ate dinner. I made conversation. I asked about his day. He lied, and I listened, and I nodded. I was a performer in the most grotesque play imaginable. Later, in our bedroom, I played the part of the loving, hopeful wife. I let him touch me. I let him believe he was reinforcing his cover story, while in reality, I was just gathering evidence. Every touch, every whispered lie, was just another brick in the wall of his prison. He thought he was solidifying his alibi. I was just letting him dig his own grave. When he fell asleep beside me, that same, easy, untroubled sleep, I slipped out of bed. I went into the guest bathroom, turned on the shower so the sound would cover my own, and I stood under the scalding water. I scrubbed my skin until it was red. I scrubbed away his touch, his scent, her perfume. I wasn't just washing my body. I was hardening my resolve. This wasn't a marriage. This was a war. And I had just survived my first battle. 2 days later, I met Clara's guy. His name was Frank Finch. He didn't look like a private investigator. He looked like a mildly bored accountant, which, Clara said, was what made him so good. We met in a noisy coffee shop miles from my neighborhood. "Mrs. Davies," he said, not standing up. He had a plain, forgettable face and watery blue eyes. "Call me Amelia," I said, sitting down. "Clara filled me in on the basics," he said, pushing a plain manila envelope across the table. It was thin. "This is just a preliminary. You were right to check the finances first. Candy Enterprises wasn't hard to find. Your husband's not as clever as he thinks. He's arrogant." My hand was shaking as I reached for the envelope. "What is it?" I asked. "It's a holding company," Finch said, taking a sip of his coffee. "He set it up 3 months ago. The recurring $500 payments, that's not the main transfer. That's just for expenses. The real money moved in one lump sum 2 months ago. $50,000. I gasped. $50,000? From where? Not our joint account. No. From his high-yield investment account. The one you're not a signatory on. But I'm the beneficiary. He can't just. He can if he's the only one on the account," Finch said flatly. He drained $50,000, moved it to the LLC, and then Candy Enterprises made a single purchase. I stared at the envelope. I knew what was inside. "The new lease," I whispered. "Not a lease," Finch said. "A down payment. On a condo. A very nice one, over in the new waterfront development. He bought it. He didn't rent. He bought it. He had taken our future, the money we were saving for a bigger house, for our children, for our lives, and he had bought a new life with her. And, Candy," I asked, my voice barely audible. Finch slid a single 8x10 glossy photo out of the envelope and placed it face down on the table. "Kirsten. Nicole. Donaldson. She's a junior architect at his firm. 26 years old. Joined the company 8 months ago. 8 months. The exact same time I found the necklace receipt. I turned the photo over. It was them. Thomas and Kirsten. They were walking out of a restaurant, laughing. She was beautiful, in that effortless, youthful way I wasn't anymore. She was blonde, bright, and she was looking up at my husband like he was a god. And around her neck, gleaming in the sunlight, was my necklace, the Peretti heart pendant. I felt nothing, just a vast, cold emptiness. The shock was gone. The hurt was gone. There was only the plan. So he bought a condo, I said. My voice was steady. It surprised me. In the LLC's name, Finch confirmed. He's smart enough for that. He'll claim it's a corporate investment, a rental property. He's building a firewall. When he leaves you, he'll keep that asset, and you'll have no claim on it. And the money, the $50,000, gone. He'll claim it as a business loss or an investment. It'll be a nightmare for your lawyer to untangle. He's planning, Mrs. Davies. He's been planning this for a long time. I looked at the photo, at his smiling, lying face. He's not the only one, I said, sliding the photo back into the envelope. Finch raised an eyebrow. What's the next move? You said he's arrogant, I said. He thinks I'm stupid. He thinks I'm this hopeful, domestic, slightly dim-witted art historian who's obsessed with having a baby. Seems that way, Finch agreed. Good. I pushed the envelope back to him. I want you to keep digging. I want to know everything. Where they eat, where she shops, what she drinks. And I want you to find out about his finances. Not just the account I know about. Everything. He's making partners soon. I want to know exactly what that deal looks like. I want to know his bonus structure. I want to know every single dollar he has, and every single dollar he's going to have. Finch almost smiled. That'll get expensive. My sister is handling your payment. Just send her the bill. I stood up. Amelia, he said, and I paused. One more thing. He's sloppy. The condo, it's not just a place for them to meet. He's moving in. Slowly. What do you mean? My guy watched the place. He's got a key. She's got a key. But he's got suits in the closet. A full bar. His laptop. He's not just visiting her. He's living there. He's just commuting back to you. The catastrophe wasn't just the affair. It wasn't just the money. It was this. The casual, cruel efficiency of it all. He was test-driving his new life, all while keeping his old one, me, on standby, paying the bills and warming his bed until he was ready to make the final trade. The promise of a baby was the chain he was using to keep me tethered. The condo was the new life he'd bought with my own. I walked out of the coffee shop, and the world looked different. Sharper. Colder. I was no longer a wife. I was a strategist. And the game had just begun. The next 3 months were a masterclass in deception. And I, the quiet, reliable art historian, became the star pupil. My life split into 2 distinct, parallel tracks. Track 1 was the life Thomas saw. I was the doting, hopeful, slightly stressed wife. I downloaded a fertility tracking app to my phone, and I made sure to leave it open on the nightstand, where he'd see the little calendar with its ovulation and try days marked in pink. It was grotesque, but it was also, I learned, incredibly effective. His reaction to it was telling. He saw it as a chore, a part of the job of managing me, his dowdy, inconvenient wife. Oh, he'd say, glancing at the app as he loosened his tie. Right. It's one of those days, huh? It is, I'd say, forcing a hopeful smile. The app says, now's the best time. And he would sigh, that put-upon, martyred sigh, and perform his husbandly duties. He thought he was placating me. He thought he was a genius, keeping me happy and distracted with this one simple, biological trick. He had no idea that every time I smiled and kissed him, I was cataloging his lies. Every time he touched me, I was mentally adding another charge to the indictment. He thought he was using my body to control my mind. I was using his to fuel my rage. He thought I was tracking my cycle. I was tracking him. Track 2 was my real life. It was lived in encrypted emails with Frank Finch and hushed, furious strategy sessions with my sister, Clara. We met in public parks, noisy food courts, places where no one would ever look for us. Finch was worth every penny Clara was paying him. The reports came in daily. He was thorough. He was invisible. And the story he unspooled was so much worse than I could have imagined. The condo wasn't just a place. It was a home. Their home. Finch sent photos. Dozens of them. Photos of Thomas and Kirsten on their balcony, drinking coffee in the morning. Kirsten was wearing his robe, the expensive one I'd bought him for Christmas 2 years ago. He sent photos of them at the grocery store, pushing a cart together, arguing over cereal. The mundane, domestic intimacy of it was what hit me the hardest. He wasn't just having a torrid affair. He was replacing me. He was living the life we were supposed to build, just with a newer, younger model. Finch had a man check the condo's trash. They found receipts, expensive dinners, lingerie, a brand new laptop, and then, the big one, a receipt for a new car, a white convertible registered to Candy Enterprises. He had bought his 26-year-old mistress a car with the money he'd stolen from our future. He's not just arrogant, Ames, Clara said, her voice shaking with rage as she looked at the photos on my phone. We were sitting on a bench, watching children play in a sandbox. It felt like a cruel joke. He's a sociopath. He's building an entire life. He's building a portfolio, I said, my own voice frighteningly calm. The condo is an asset. The car is an asset. He's using the LLC to shield himself. When he leaves me, he'll have everything, and I'll have a half-empty house and a joint bank account he's already bled dry. So what's the next move? Clara asked. Finch has enough for any divorce lawyer to tear him to shreds. No, I said, watching a small boy fall and skin his knee. No, a divorce is what he wants. He's planning for a divorce. He's expecting me to cry and hire a lawyer and fight him for the house. He's already prepared for that fight. He thinks he'll give me the house and I'll go away. But he's not just going to divorce me. He's going to disappear. Clara looked at me. Amelia, what are you talking about? Finch found something else, I said, pulling up the last email. He got into Thomas's cloud. The partnership. It's happening. Next month. And he found the draft of the contract. The new partners get a signing bonus. A massive one. Life-changing money, Clara. My God. But here's the best part, I said, and I almost smiled. He also found the firm's partner handbook. And in it, there's a morality clause. A very old, very strict, conduct unbecoming clause. Any public scandal, any action that brings the firm's reputation into disrepute, is grounds for immediate termination. And forfeiture of the bonus. Clara's eyes went wide. Amelia, you wouldn't. He's worked his whole life for this, I said, the plan finally clicking into place, cold and perfect. It's all he's ever cared about. More than me, more than her. His reputation. His success. He's using me as a stable, domestic cover to get it. I'm his asset wife. I'm the one who proves he's a stable, reliable family man. I finally looked at my sister. He's not just going to lose his money. He's not just going to lose his mistress. I'm going to let him get the partnership. I'm going to let him have that perfect, shining moment where he thinks he's won. Where he has it all. And then, I'm going to take it all away. In public. And I'm going to use his own arrogance to do it. The pressure was building on Thomas, too. Juggling 2 lives was making him sloppy. His lies became more frequent and more obvious. Late meeting, he'd text, but Finch's photos would show him at a bar with Kirsten. Client emergency, he'd say on a Saturday, but the credit card alert, which I now monitored daily, would show a charge at a boutique near her condo. He was high on his own success, so sure he was getting away with it. He was just so arrogant. The true test came 2 weeks before the partnership announcement. It was the firm's annual appreciation dinner. A huge black-tie event. It was my duty, as the supportive wife, to be there. To be charming, to network, to be the perfect accessory on his arm. I wore a simple, elegant black dress. I did my hair. I smiled. The event was in a massive hotel ballroom. Thomas was in his element, gliding from partner to partner, clapping them on the back, his brilliant smile firmly in place. I was right beside him, smiling until my face hurt. And then I saw her. Kirsten. She was across the room, at a table with the other junior architects. She was wearing a bright red dress, and around her neck, sparkling under the chandeliers, was the Peretti heart pendant. My heart didn't stop. It didn't pound. It just froze. It was so brazen. To wear it here. To wear it in front of me. Thomas's boss's wife, a formidable woman named Eleanor, sidled up to me, a glass of champagne in her hand. "Amelia, darling," she said, not taking her eyes off the center of the room. "Your husband is on fire tonight. They're all so impressed. He's worked so hard for it," I said, my voice smooth as silk. "Yes," Eleanor said, taking a slow sip. "He has. He also seems very invested in his team. Especially that one." She nodded, almost imperceptibly, toward Kirsten's table. "The one in red. He hasn't taken his eyes off her all night." This was it. The moment I could have broken. The moment I could have burst into tears and confirmed everyone's suspicions. Instead, I laughed. A light, airy, knowing laugh. "Oh, Kirsten," I said, as if it were the funniest joke in the world. "Honestly, I don't know what I'm going to do with him." I leaned in conspiratorially. "She's his protégée. He's convinced she's the next big star, but she's a nervous wreck. Her team has a huge presentation for the Boston execs next week. He's been coaching her for a month. He's a born mentor. I keep telling him he's stressing more than she is." Eleanor's sharp eyes studied me. She was looking for a crack, a flinch. I gave her nothing but breezy, supportive confidence. Finally, she smiled. "Well, you're a very good wife, Amelia. A very trusting one. He's lucky to have you stabilizing him." "We're a team," I said, smiling back. Later that night at home, Thomas was flying. He was drunk, high on the adrenaline of his impending success. "They loved me," he slurred, fumbling with his cufflinks. "They loved us, babe. You were perfect." Eleanor said, "She said I was lucky to have you." "She's right. We're a team," I said again, my voice flat. He grabbed me, pulling me into a rough, boozy kiss. "That partnership is mine, Amelia. It's all happening. Just like I said." He stumbled toward the bed, and his phone, which he tossed on the nightstand, buzzed. It was face up. I saw it. He saw me see it. The screen lit up with a text from a contact labeled Candy. "You were incredible tonight. I couldn't stop looking at you. Wish you were here and not with her. I'm still wearing your necklace." Winky face. I looked at the text. I looked at him. His face, moments ago so full of triumph, was now a mask of pure, white-hot panic. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just tilted my head. I let a small, confused frown cross my face. "Candy?" I asked, my voice the perfect picture of innocence. Who's Candy? Is that a client?" I watched his brain work, the drunken, arrogant, clumsy gears grinding, trying to invent a lie on the spot. "Candy," he stammered, grabbing the phone and quickly flipping it over. "Oh, that's, Kevin N. Donaldson." My heart stopped. The stupidity, the sheer, insulting laziness of the lie. Kirsten, Nicole, Donaldson, Kevin N. Donaldson. "He's from the Boston office," Thomas continued, his voice regaining a fraction of its confidence. God, he's so needy. A total nightmare. Always texting at all hours. You were incredible. He's just, sucking up. For the partnership." He let out a shaky, dismissive laugh. "Anyway, forget Kevin. Forget the office. Let's celebrate. We've got a baby to make, right?" He reached for me again, and I let him. I smiled. I wrapped my arms around his neck, pulling him close. "You're right," I whispered. "Forget Kevin. Let's just celebrate us." As he kissed me, I stared at the dark ceiling over his shoulder. He wasn't just a liar. He was a bad liar. He thought I was so stupid, so desperate, so beneath him, that he didn't even have to try to lie well. That was the last piece of evidence I needed. The pressure hadn't just risen. It had built a bomb, and he had just handed me the detonator. The weeks after the Kevin N. Donaldson incident were the strangest of my life. I was living in a fog of pure, cold performance. I was a ghost in my own home. I made breakfast. I went to the university and gave lectures on art I could no longer see. I came home. I made dinner. I smiled. I listened to Thomas's lies about his stressful, important days. And I kept my fertility app open on my nightstand. We were 1 week away from the partnership announcement. The air in our house was thick with his ambition. He was electric, barely able to contain his excitement. He was on the verge of having it all: the corner office, the massive bonus, the adoring mistress, and the stupid, compliant wife at home. I, on the other hand, was playing the long game. And my character, the baby-obsessed, slightly desperate wife, required her next move. I had an appointment. I'd made it a month prior, telling Thomas I was just going to get a checkup, make sure everything on my end is working properly. "Good idea, babe," he'd said, patting my arm, his eyes on his laptop. "Be proactive." So I went. I sat in the sterile, beige office of my gynecologist, a kind woman I'd seen for years. "Well, Amelia," she said, smiling at me over her desk after the exam. "The good news is you are in perfect health. Your blood work is textbook. Everything is exactly as it should be. Frankly, you're a model of fertility." I nodded, my heart a lump of ice. "Oh, that's wonderful." She leaned forward, her smile becoming more gentle. "Amelia, you've been trying for 6 months now, and you're tracking your cycle. If everything is this healthy on your end—" She paused, choosing her words. "It might be time to look at the other side of the equation. It's 50-50, you know. Have you considered having Thomas come in for a simple analysis?" I've mentioned it," I lied. He's under so much pressure at work. The timing." "I understand," she said, scribbling on a notepad. "But it's a non-invasive test. It's easy, and it would give us the full picture. Just have him think about it." I took the pamphlet she gave me. "I will. Thank you, doctor." I walked out into the bright afternoon and sat in my car. I looked at the little pamphlet, Understanding Male Infertility. That night, I decided to use it. It was part of the performance. I'd show him the pamphlet, he'd get defensive, and I'd get to play the part of the long-suffering, patient wife. It was just another scene in our twisted play. I waited until he was in his office after dinner. I knocked softly. "Hey," I said, holding the pamphlet. I went to the doctor today." "Yeah? Everything good?" he asked, distracted, clicking his mouse. "Yes," she said. "I'm perfectly healthy. Everything's fine. With me." I held out the pamphlet. She suggested, "just to get the full picture, that maybe you could?" He looked at the pamphlet. His eyes scanned the title. The change was instant, and it was violent. His face, which had been relaxed, went dark. He didn't just look annoyed. He looked furious. He snatched the pamphlet from my hand. "What is this?" he hissed, his voice dropping. "Are you serious?" I recoiled, genuinely startled by the venom. It's just a test, Thomas. She said it was easy. So now it's my fault," he snapped, standing up. "You go to your doctor, and suddenly I'm the one who needs to get tested? You're putting this on me." "No, I'm not. It's not about fault. It's the stress, Amelia," he yelled, throwing the pamphlet onto his desk. "I'm about to close the biggest deal of my life. I'm 1 week away from making partner. And you come in here and wave this insult in my face? What, you think I can't do it? You think I'm not man enough for you?" It was so out of proportion. It was so wrong. This wasn't the defensiveness of a busy man. This was the panic of a cornered animal. "Thomas, I'm sorry," I stammered, playing my part. I didn't mean it like that. I want this for us so much." His anger vanished as quickly as it had come. He saw my fear, and it fed his arrogance. He visibly composed himself, straightening his shirt. He let out a long-suffering sigh, the one I knew so well. "Babe, I know," he said, his voice now soft, condescending. "I know you do. But you're putting too much pressure on it. On me. It'll happen when it happens. This analysis, it's not a good time. Okay, let's get through the partnership. Then we can talk." He came over and kissed my forehead. "Okay, just let me handle things. Don't stress." I nodded, letting my eyes fill with fake tears. "Okay, I'm sorry. It's fine. Now let me get back to this. It's a big night." I went to our bedroom and shut the door. My hands were shaking, but not with fear. He wasn't defensive. He was terrified. He wasn't angry that I'd suggested it. He was angry that I was close to something. My researcher's brain, the one I'd suppressed, kicked into high gear. Why would he have that reaction? Unless he already knew what the test would say. I went to my laptop. I was the one who managed the bills. The insurance. I logged into our joint insurance portal. I clicked on Thomas's name. View claims history. I scrolled back, past the last 2 years, and then I saw it. 3 years ago. Before he'd ever mentioned trying. Before the affair, before everything. A series of claims. Provider, Urology Partners, LLC. Claim, consultation. Claim, lab services, specialized. Claim, follow-up consultation. It was right after he'd had that terrible flu that had him in bed for a week. He'd been so private about it, so dismissive. My blood ran cold. He'd already been tested. He had, and he was hiding it. I went back to his office. He was gone, probably to the kitchen for a drink. I looked at his desk. The pamphlet was gone. He'd thrown it in the trash. I looked around. Where would he keep something like that? Something so private? In the back of his closet, there was a small, fireproof safe. I'd helped him buy it years ago to protect our passports and important papers. I'd never known the code. It's just for my eyes only, babe, he'd said, tapping my nose. You let me handle the serious stuff. I knelt in front of it. What would his code be? His birthday? Too obvious. I thought about his arrogance. His ego. He played football in college. His number. The one on the framed jersey in his office. 1 to 8, 1 to 8. I typed it in. The light flashed green. The safe clicked open. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would break my ribs. Inside, there were stacks of papers. His original partnership offer. Old stock certificates. And a single, thick manila envelope. No label. I pulled it out. My hands were trembling, so badly I could barely open the clasp. Inside, there was a letter, on heavy medical letterhead. From Urology Partners, LLC. It was dated 3 years ago. Dear Mr. Davies, thank you for coming in for your follow-up. As we discussed, the results of your semen analysis, following your significant varicocele, are conclusive. The tests confirm a diagnosis of azoospermia. There is a 0 sperm count. As we discussed, this condition is, in your case, permanent and irreversible. I know this is not the news you were hoping for, and I am available to discuss options, such as adoption, with you and your wife at your convenience. I read the words. 0 sperm count. Permanent. Irreversible. I sank to the floor of his closet, my hand over my mouth. He knew. For 3 years, he had known. He had known he was sterile. He had known he could never, ever have children. And for the last 6 months, the let's have a baby conversation. His sincere eyes, the wink, the fertility app he saw on my nightstand, the way he would sigh and perform his duties as if it were a chore, the way he let me believe that it was my fault, that I was the one who was stressed, that I was the one who was failing. This wasn't a lie. This was a form of psychological torture. The affair I could understand. The money I could understand. That was simple, greedy, human betrayal. This was a different kind of evil. This was a man who needed to see me broken. A man who dangled my deepest, most cherished dream in front of me, knowing it was a hollow prop. He wasn't just distracting me. He was punishing me. He was making me feel inadequate, desperate, and broken, all to feed his own ego. All to keep me under his thumb. I didn't cry. I was beyond tears. I felt a rage so pure and so cold it was almost peaceful. It cleared my head. It sharpened my vision. He wasn't just a cheat. He wasn't just a thief. He was a monster. I carefully folded the letter. I put it back in the envelope. I put the envelope back in the safe. I closed the door and spun the lock. I stood up, and the woman who stood up was not the woman who had knelt down. The devastation was complete. I no longer had a husband. I was married to a void. My plan to expose him at the party, it wasn't just a good idea anymore. It wasn't just revenge. It was a moral necessity. He didn't just deserve to lose his job. He deserved to be annihilated, and I was the only one who could do it. I walked out of that closet, and the world was in black and white. The colors were gone. The warmth was gone. I was walking through an empty house that had been built on a void. The woman who had knelt in front of that safe was gone, and the one who stood in her place was a creature of pure, cold resolve. My descent wasn't into madness. It was into a clarity that was so sharp it was agonizing. I had to live in that house for 7 more days. I found Thomas in the living room, pouring himself a generous glass of whiskey. He looked up as I walked in, his face still holding a trace of that manufactured annoyance. This was my first test. I had to go from the woman who discovered his monstrosity back to the woman he thought I was. Weak, emotional, and easily cowed. My body moved, my mouth spoke all on its own. The performance had to continue. I stopped in the doorway, my hands twisting in front of me. "Thomas!" He sighed, swirling the whiskey. "What now, Amelia? I really need to work. I wanted to apologize." I whispered. I made my voice shake. I made my eyes look at the floor. "I'm so sorry about before. With the pamphlet. It was thoughtless. You're right. You're under so much pressure. I was being selfish. I just want this so much, I'm not thinking straight." I watched him. His entire posture changed. The tension left his shoulders. He took a sip of his whiskey, and the familiar, condescending smirk returned to his lips. He had won. He had put his hysterical wife back in her box. "It's okay, babe," he said, his voice magnanimous, forgiving. "It's okay. I know you're just emotional about it. We both are. Forget about it. It's forgotten. Now, come on, let's just have a quiet night. I've got the partnership in the bag. We should be celebrating, not fighting." "You're right," I said, managing a watery smile. I'll go make some tea." "That's my girl," he said, turning back to his drink. I walked into the kitchen, and my hands, which were so steady as I took the letter from the safe, were shaking so violently I dropped the kettle. I leaned against the counter, my lungs burning. This was my rock bottom, not the discovery. This was the descent, having to apologize to my monster, having to shrink myself, to make myself small and stupid, to placate the man who had been psychologically torturing me for years. I had to do that for 7 more days. The final week of our marriage was my masterpiece of deception. I was the perfect wife. I cooked his favorite meals. I brought him coffee in his office. I asked him, with bright, false hope, about the partnership. I let the fertility app on my nightstand send its little peak fertility notification, and when he saw it, I just gave him a sad, hopeful little shrug. And he, in turn, was the perfect sociopath. He was charming and magnanimous, and so patronizing. He was at the peak of his arrogance, high on his impending victory. He was juggling his 2 lives with a sloppy, manic glee, so sure he was the smartest man in the world. He'd take phone calls in the other room, and I'd hear him laugh that low, intimate laugh. "Just a client, babe," he'd call out, and I'd just smile and nod. "Of course, dear." Finch's reports were piling up. He was spending a fortune. He'd taken Kirsten to a 5-star resort for the weekend. A final push before the partnership announcement, he told me, claiming it was a mandatory executive retreat. I'd even called him there, and he'd answered, his voice breathless, "Can't talk, babe," in the middle of a strategy session. I'd heard the ocean in the background. The true, final devastation came 2 days before the party. Thomas sat me down at the kitchen table. He was wearing his serious husband face. He put his hand on top of mine. It felt like a spider. "Amelia," he said, his voice grave, but his eyes gleaming. "This is it. It's all happening. The partnership it's a done deal. I signed the final papers on Friday night at the party." "Oh, Thomas, that's incredible," I gushed, my face aching from the force of the fake smile. "It is. It's a new world for us, babe. A new life." He slid a piece of paper across the table. It was from his investment firm. "Now, this is it's a formality. A bit of legal housekeeping." I looked at the paper. It was full of dense financial jargon. "What is it?" I asked, playing my part. "The partners. We all have to roll our private investments into the firm's central partnership fund." "It's part of the buy-in," he said, lying smoothly. This is just a consent form. From you. Since you're the beneficiary, on my old account, it's just a spousal waiver. It just says you acknowledge the transfer. That you're disclaiming interest in the old account, so I can move it to the new one. It's just so our assets are clean for the partnership. I knew exactly what it was. Clara had warned me. It wasn't a transfer. It was a severance. He was tricking me into signing a document that legally stated I had no claim, no interest, in his high-yield account, the one he'd already drained of $50,000. This was him wiping his hands clean of me. This was him getting me to sign my own financial death warrant. He was making me choose. My choice was terrible. Refuse to sign. He would know something was wrong. My plan, the party, the public humiliation, it would all evaporate. He would just leave. He'd file for divorce, and his high-powered lawyers would shred me, and I'd be left with this piece of paper I didn't sign and nothing else. Sign. I would be willingly, with my own hand, signing away any right to what was, morally, our money. I would be walking into that party with nothing. I would be letting him win, completely and totally on paper. My inner struggle was a silent scream. This was it. This was the final theft. He was taking my past, my present, my hope, and now he was taking my future. I looked at his face, his eager, smiling, lying face. He was a wolf, asking me to sharpen his teeth. I picked up the pen. A spousal waiver, I asked, frowning in confusion. That sounds scary. He laughed. That condescending, oh, you're so silly laugh. It's just finance, babe. It's boring. Don't you worry your pretty little head about it. It's just for us. For our new life. For the baby. A bigger house. The best schools. All of it. He dangled the lie one last time. And I signed the paper. I wrote my name, Amelia Davies, on the line. The name that was about to be extinct. His relief was so profound it was almost sexual. He snatched the paper back, his smile beaming. See? Painless. You're the best, Amelia. The best. I'm going to make all of this up to you. I promise. I know, I said, my voice a hollow echo. I had just signed away my last shred of security. I had nothing. I was financially ruined. I was emotionally destroyed. I had no husband, no home, no future. I was completely, utterly isolated in the knowledge of his evil. This was it. This was the darkest descent. I had truly, finally lost everything. The night before the party, he got the official call. He was a partner. He was ecstatic. He came into the kitchen, picked me up, and spun me around. We did it, babe. We did it. He was so full of triumph, so full of himself, that he was generous. Get dressed, he said. The new suit's been delivered. I'm taking my wife out. We're celebrating. He didn't take me to the expensive, new restaurant he'd taken Kirsten to, the one Finch had photographed. He took me to the same, tired, mid-level Italian place we'd been going to for 10 years. We sat in a booth. He ordered champagne. He raised his glass. To us, he said, his eyes glittering. To the future. Everything's going to be different now. I promise. To us, I repeated. The champagne tasted like acid. He was expansive. He talked about the bonus. The new car he was going to buy, an SUV, for the family. He talked about the new office. And then, he reached across the table. He took my hand. His face was a mask of perfect, rehearsed sincerity. Amelia, he said, his voice low. I know this last year has been hard. I know I've been distant. It's just, this partnership, it's been my whole world. And I know you've been stressed. About, the baby. I just looked at him. And I just want you to know, he continued. I promise, as soon as this bonus clears, we will see the best doctors. I'll even do that stupid test. I'll do anything you want. We'll make it happen. I needed to get this done first. For us. He sat there, having just stolen my money, having just signed my financial eviction, having just lied to my face for 3 straight years about his own body, and he dangled that dead, impossible dream in front of me again. As a reward, as a treat, as a promise for my good behavior. I felt a click deep inside my mind. The last tumblers of my old self falling away. That means so much to me, Thomas, I said, and my voice was so steady it scared me. I know, he said, leaning back, satisfied. I know. That night, I lay beside him in bed for the last time. He fell asleep in seconds, the deep, untroubled sleep of a man who has just conquered the world. I lay awake, staring into the darkness. I had nothing left to lose. He had taken it all. My home, my security, my dignity, my hope. I was at rock bottom, and I realized rock bottom is a very, very solid place to build a foundation. He thought he'd won. He thought he'd taken everything. He hadn't. He'd left me one thing. He'd left me tomorrow. The morning of the party. Friday. The day he signed his final partnership papers. The day he would be celebrated. The day I would end him. I woke up alone. The indent of his head was on the pillow next to mine, but he was already gone. His phone, which he'd left charging, buzz ___ on the nightstand. I glanced at it. Candy. A new message. Can't wait to see you tonight, partner. I've got a surprise for you. Wear the red dress. He was bringing her. He was bringing his mistress to his own partnership celebration. The same one his wife, was expected to attend. The sheer, blinding arrogance of it. He wasn't just juggling two lives. He was planning to merge them. He wanted both of them in the same room, celebrating him. I got out of bed. The rage was gone. The hurt was gone. There was just a vast, cold, empty space inside me, a cathedral of pure, necessary action. I showered. I got dressed. Not in a dress. In jeans and a plain black sweater. Armor. I felt like a soldier. I made coffee. I didn't drink it. I just waited. At 10 a.m., my sister Clara arrived. She wasn't alone. Frank Finch was with her. They looked like a pair of grim-faced undertakers. We sat in my kitchen. The kitchen he had sat in, just 2 days prior, and tricked me into signing away my life. Okay, Clara said, opening her briefcase on the table. She was all business. This is it, Amelia. This is the final choice. She laid out 3 neatly bound folders. Folder 1, she said, tapping a red one. This is Frank's entire file. Every photo, every receipt, the condo deed in the LLC's name, the car registration, the travel records for the business trip to the resort, the text messages, the photos of Kirsten wearing your necklace. It's enough to crucify him in a divorce court. It's overwhelming. Then she tapped a blue folder. This is my contribution. The financials. Every dollar I could trace, moving from his investment account, the one you just signed away, into the Candy Enterprises LLC. It shows a clear, systematic, long-term pattern of financial diversion. It's fraud, plain and simple. He stole marital assets. Finch, who had been silent, slid a single, sealed envelope across the table. And that, he said, his voice flat, is the final piece. What is it? I asked. A copy of the Candy Enterprises corporate filings. I told you he wasn't as smart as he thought. He listed himself as the sole officer. But for the corporate address, he used the condo. And for the corporate agent, he used Kirsten Nicole Donaldson. But he didn't stop there. He hired her. Candy Enterprises has one consultant on its payroll. Her. He's been paying her a salary out of the money he stole from you. He wasn't just having an affair. He wasn't just buying her gifts. He had made her a business partner in the theft of my life. So, Clara said, leaning forward, this brings us to the choice. My lawyer, he's one of the best. He looked at all of this. She pointed to the folders. And he looked at your contribution. She nodded toward my purse, where I was carrying a small, hard USB drive. On that drive was one scanned document, the letter from Urology Partners, LLC. The lawyer says, Clara continued, her voice soft now, that with the financial fraud, the affair, and the letter, the psychological cruelty, you don't have to just divorce him, Amelia. You can ruin him. Privately. He says one letter to the firm's board, attaching all of this, and they will drop Thomas so fast his head will spin. The partnership will vanish. The bonus will disappear. They'll probably sue him. He says, you'll get everything. He'll give you the house, a massive settlement, just to make you go away. You don't have to see him. You don't have to go to this party. You can be on a plane by midnight. You can just go. You can be free. You can accept the narrative that he's a monster and you're the victim, and you can take the money and build a new life. This was it. The impossible choice. The choice to stay broken and get rich. The choice to hide in shame and be comfortable. The choice to remain the victim and win in the quiet, dignified way everyone expected me to. I looked at the folders. I looked at Clara's hopeful, worried face. I looked at Finch, who was watching me with neutral, professional curiosity. I thought about Thomas. I thought about him sitting in that ballroom. I thought about him in his new suit, accepting their applause. I thought about him winking at me as he dangled the lie of a child. I thought about him bringing her, wearing her red dress, to my life. No, I said. Clara blinked. No. What do you mean, no? I'm not sending a letter, I said, my voice as cold and clear as I'd ever heard it. I'm not taking a settlement. I am not going to be the poor, quiet victim who got paid to disappear. He doesn't just get to lose his money. He has to lose everything. He has to lose his reputation. He has to lose his future. He has to lose the respect of every person he's ever conned. I stood up. I was vibrating. He made me his fool. He made me his domestic, stupid, invisible prop. He is going to see me tonight. Not as the wife. Not as the victim. I looked at Clara. He is going to see me as the historian. The one who found the evidence. The one who catalogued his entire betrayal. And I am not going to present my findings in a quiet little letter. I am going to publish my dissertation. In public. In front of all of his colleagues. Clara was silent for a long moment. Then, a slow, dangerous smile spread across her face. Okay, she said. Okay, Joan of Arc. So, we're not staying broken. We're fighting back. We're not fighting back, I said. He's been fighting a war I didn't even know I was in. Tonight, I'm just ending it. My transformation was complete. The catalyst wasn't one thing. It was the crushing weight of 1,000 betrayals. The infertility letter was the rock bottom, and the choice Clara had just given me, the choice to be a rich victim or a broke victor, that was the catalyst. I chose to rewrite the narrative. I chose to stand in the truth. I chose me. All right, said Finch, standing up. He clearly appreciated the new Amelia. If we're doing this, we're doing it my way. He reached into his own coat and pulled out one more envelope. It was different. It was thick, creamy, expensive cardstock. It had the firm's logo embossed on it. What's that? I asked. That, he said, is a blank envelope and a piece of letterhead from your husband's new partnership offer packet. My guy, he's good. And this, he pulled out a small, laminated card, is a waitstaff ID for the hotel. My guy also knows the catering manager. I looked at Clara. She was already on her feet. Amelia, she said, her eyes shining with a terrifying, brilliant light. It's time to get dressed for the party. I went to my closet. I pushed past the sensible, beige, art history lecturer clothes. I pushed past the simple black dress I'd worn to the last party. In the very back, there was a dress I hadn't worn in years. I'd bought it for a gallery opening back when I thought I had a future. Back when I was me. It was not a wife's dress. It was not a victim's dress. It was a deep, impossible blood red. It was the color of rage and the color of victory. I pulled it out. Thomas wanted her to wear red. He had no idea. I was the woman in the red dress. And I was coming for him. The ballroom at the Grand Regent Hotel was a sea of congratulations. It was the absolute pinnacle of Thomas's life. The room was dripping with the smell of expensive flowers and even more expensive champagne. I knew, because I had seen the budget he'd bragged about to the firm. He was in the center of it all, a king holding court. He was wearing a new, perfectly tailored suit. He was shaking hands with the senior partners. His smile, so bright it was almost violent. He just signed the final papers. He was, officially, a partner. He had his money. He had his power. And then I arrived. I hadn't used the main entrance. Frank had arranged for me to use a service elevator. I stepped into the ballroom from a side door, and for a moment, I just stood there. I was wearing the red dress. It was a simple, brutal column of silk that clung to every curve. My hair, which I usually wore in a sensible bun, was down. My makeup was perfect. I was not the woman who made his coffee. I was not the woman who tracked her fertility. I was a stranger. A few heads turned, then a few more. The buzz in the room shifted. I saw Thomas's head turn. He was in the middle of a sentence with Eleanor's husband, the senior-most partner, a man named Arthur. Thomas's smile didn't just falter. It evaporated. I saw the sequence of emotions, even from across the room. First, confusion. Who is that? Then recognition. That's Amelia. Then pure, unadulterated rage. This wasn't the plan. I wasn't in my beige wife dress. I wasn't standing by his side, beaming. I was a rogue element. And then, I saw the panic. He scanned the room, his eyes darting, and I saw them land on Kirsten. She was across the room, at a table with the junior architects, just as the text message had promised. She was also wearing red, a garish, ruffled, younger red. He looked from her, to me, and his face went pale. His two worlds were in the same room, and one of them was off script. I didn't move. I just watched him. Arthur, oblivious, clapped Thomas on the back. Well, son, it's time. He walked to the podium. The lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the stage. Thank you all for coming, Arthur's voice boomed. Tonight, we celebrate the future of this firm. And the future is in men like the one we're honoring tonight. A man of integrity. A man of tireless dedication. A man who represents this firm's core values of loyalty and family. I had to suppress a laugh. It came out as a small, cold smile. He's a true family man, Arthur continued, supported, as all great men are, by a wonderful, brilliant wife. I believe Amelia is here. Yes, there she is. He motioned, and the spotlight, just for a second, found me. Amelia, you look absolutely stunning. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. I just met the light, and I met Arthur's gaze. And now, Arthur said, I want to bring up the man of the hour, the newest partner at our firm, Thomas Davies. The room exploded in applause. Thomas, his face now a rigid mask of a smile, walked up to the stage. He shook Arthur's hand. He stood at the podium. He owned the world. He had it all. He looked out at the crowd, his gaze skipping right over me, finding Kirsten instead. He gave her a small, almost imperceptible nod. He tapped the microphone. Thank you, Arthur. I'm truly speechless. And that's when it happened. Excuse me, sir. A waiter was walking onto the stage. A waiter in the hotel's uniform, holding a silver tray. It was Frank Finch. Thomas, annoyed at the interruption, turned. What is it? I'm in the middle of. Frank didn't stop. He walked right up to the podium, into the spotlight. He was the picture of professional service. So sorry for the interruption, Mr. Davies, Frank said, his voice quiet, but he was standing right next to the live microphone. The entire room heard him. This was just delivered for you. A personal matter. On the silver tray was a single, thick, creamy envelope. The one Frank had shown me. The one with the firm's logo, embossed in gold. It looked official. The room was silent. Everyone was watching. This was not part of the program. Thomas stared at the envelope. His arrogance warred with his confusion. What is this? He hissed, his voice amplified, sounding sharp and nervous. It's from your wife, sir, Frank said. Thomas froze. His eyes snapped to me. I was standing 10 feet from the stage. I hadn't moved. I just waited. His hands were shaking. He had to take it. The entire room, all his new partners, his old boss, his mistress, everyone was watching. He snatched the envelope off the tray. He fumbled with the seal. He was so panicked, he ripped it in half. He pulled out the contents. His face, it wasn't just panic. It was ruin. He was holding 2 documents. The first, I knew, was the letter. The one from Urology Partners, LLC. The second was a printout from my fertility app, a calendar for the last 6 months, with all the little pink peak fertility days neatly circled. The days he had sighed and performed and lied. His knees literally buckled. He gripped the podium to hold himself up. Arthur, confused, stepped forward. Thomas, is everything all right? Bad news. Thomas couldn't speak. He was just gasping. That was my cue. I took 2 steps forward. My voice was calm, clear, and cut through the silence. Oh no, Arthur, I said. It's not bad news. He's just emotional. Thomas's head snapped up. His eyes were murderous. "Amelia," he whispered, a threat. "It's just a medical report," I continued, walking to the edge of the stage. "Isn't that right, Thomas? A consultation." I turned to the room. I turned to Arthur and to Eleanor, who was watching me with a look of pure, fascinated vindication. "You're all congratulating my husband," I said, my voice ringing with a strength I didn't know I had. "You're praising this family man, and I've been his supportive wife. But the family you're praising, it's a little different than you think." I pointed at the papers in his hand. "For the last year, my husband has been pretending to try and have a baby with me. A baby I wanted, more than anything. He's let me go to doctors. He's let me feel like a failure. He's let me believe I was the problem." I took a breath. The truth is in that letter. My husband has known for 3 years that he is sterile. 0 sperm count. Permanent. Irreversible. He has known, and he has been using my hope, my body as a distraction. He's been psychologically torturing me just to keep me busy, to keep me from looking too closely. A collective gasp went through the room. Thomas was white. "Amelia, you shut your mouth." "Shut my mouth," I said, and this time I laughed. It was a cold, sharp sound. But why would he do that? What would he need to hide so badly? Well, I suppose he'd need to hide. Kirsten Nicole Donaldson. Across the room, at the junior table, a woman in a red dress choked. All heads turned to her. Or, as my husband likes to call her, Candy, I said. Thomas, in a blind panic, lunged for the microphone, but I was already moving. I stepped up onto the stage, took the mic from its stand, and held it. He was trapped between me and the podium. My husband, my ex-husband, he's not just a liar, I said, my voice booming through the speakers. He's a thief. For the last 8 months, he's been stealing marital assets, our shared money, and funneling it into a shell corporation. Candy Enterprises. I wonder what that stands for. He's been paying Miss Donaldson, his junior, a salary from that account. He bought her a condo. He bought her a car. He bought her that necklace. Kirsten's hand flew to her throat, to the Peretti heart pendant. And just 2 days ago, I said, looking right at Arthur, he tricked me into signing a spousal waiver, giving up my rights to all our money so he could clean his assets for this. I gestured to the partnership. A clear breach of your morality clause, I believe. Arthur's face was no longer confused. It was stone. "So," I said, "I'm not here to celebrate. I'm here to serve these." On cue, my sister Clara, looking like a CEO in a sharkskin suit, walked up the aisle. She handed a thick, bound folder to Arthur. "His full financial fraud, and a copy of your morality clause. My card is inside." Thomas was vibrating. He was cornered. "Get out!" he screamed. "Get out of my—" "Oh, I'm going," I said. "But first, your final gift." And Frank Finch, no longer a waiter, walked back onto the stage. He was wearing a suit now. He was carrying a thick, legal-sized envelope. "Thomas Davies," Frank said, his voice all business. "You've been served." He handed the envelope to Thomas. Thomas, in his final, fatal, arrogant act, thought it was a lawsuit. He thought it was just papers. He ripped it open to show everyone how little he cared. It wasn't a lawsuit. It wasn't divorce papers. It was a stack of glossy 8x10 photographs. The photos of him and Kirsten at the resort. Him and Kirsten on the condo balcony in my robe. Her getting into her convertible. Him at that other restaurant feeding her pasta. The photos scattered from his limp hands, cascading onto the stage, onto the floor. The front rows could see them. They saw his secret, second life in full, humiliating color. He looked at the photos. He looked at me. He had panicked. I leaned into the microphone one last time. "He took his mistress on a secret date," I said, my voice a soft, final whisper that echoed through the entire, silent hall. But the waiter, he handed him the truth instead. And as for the divorce papers, "Thomas," I looked him dead in the eye. "I'm keeping the house. I'm keeping the accounts. I'm keeping my name. And you're keeping her." I dropped the microphone. The thud and screech of feedback was the period on the end of my marriage. I turned, my red dress swirling, and I walked off that stage, down the aisle, and out of that ballroom, leaving the smoking crater of his life behind me. I didn't run. I walked. My head was high. The click of my heels on the marble floor of the hotel lobby was the only sound in my world. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. As the grand ballroom doors swung shut behind me, they cut off the sound of an explosion. Not a sound of a bomb, but the sound of 100 high-powered people all starting to talk at once. A sonic boom of scandal. I was outside, in the cool night air, when Clara caught up to me. She was breathless, her face flushed with a terrifying, beautiful, primal vicarious triumph. "Ames," she panted, grabbing my arm. "Ames, my God. You dropped the mic. You literally dropped the mic." Frank was gone. He had blended into the chaos and vanished like a ghost, his job complete. I leaned against a stone pillar, the adrenaline finally leaving my body. My legs felt like water. I took my first breath as a free woman. It was ragged. "He panicked," I whispered. It was the only thing I could think of. When he saw the papers, he just panicked. "He imploded," Clara said, her voice full of awe. "I've never." Arthur's face, Eleanor's, and Kirsten. Oh, Ames. She was an interesting shade of gray. I closed my eyes. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel joy. I felt quiet. I felt empty. But it wasn't the cold, terrible emptiness of the last 3 months. It was a new emptiness. A clean slate. The void had been cleared. "Let's go home, Clara," I said. "We're not going to your house," she said, her voice firm, protective. "You're coming with me." I nodded. That house wasn't my home. It was just a place. The fallout was immediate, and it was absolute. Clara's lawyer, who had been on standby, called me the next morning. "Amelia," he'd said, his voice clipped and professional. You certainly made a splash." Arthur, the senior partner, called me at 6 a.m. this morning. Thomas Davies was terminated for cause, effective immediately. The partnership offer is obviously rescinded. They're citing the morality clause, breach of fiduciary duty, and, well, a long list of other things. "Good," I said. "That's not all," the lawyer continued. "They are furious. The firm is launching its own investigation into Candy Enterprises and is preparing a civil suit against both Mr. Davies and Miss Donaldson to recover the misappropriated funds and damages for significant reputational harm. They've already frozen all his accounts, including the bonus he never got. Kirsten was fired, of course. The car, the condo, all assets of the LLC were seized by the firm's lawyers. In one night, she went from the pampered Mistress with a new convertible to an unemployed 26-year-old named as a co-conspirator in a massive fraud suit. She'd hitched her wagon to a star, not realizing it was a meteor. I only heard from Thomas once. It was a voicemail left from a block number 3 days later. His voice, it wasn't the charming, confident man I'd married. It wasn't the cold, calculating sociopath I discovered. It was the terrified, squealing, rabid voice of a cornered animal. You bitch. You ruined me. You ruined everything. My life, my whole life. It's gone. You'll pay for this. It just devolved into sobbing. Pitiful, pathetic, broken sobs. I played it once. I felt nothing. No pity, no fear. Just finality. I deleted it and blocked the number. The divorce wasn't a negotiation. It was a surrender. His high-powered lawyers had dropped him. He had no money, no job, and was facing a lawsuit that would financially cripple him for life. He was toxic. He signed everything. He signed the house over to me. He signed over the joint accounts, what was left of them. He signed away any claim to anything we'd ever owned. He just wanted it to be over. He wanted to disappear. The divorce was finalized in less than 30 days. 6 months later, the house is gone. I sold it and everything in it. I couldn't stand the smell of his lies. I live in a new apartment, a bright, airy space with old wooden floors, big windows, and walls that are covered in books. It smells like old paper and new paint. It smells like me. I didn't just go back to the university. I re-enrolled. I'm finishing my dissertation, the one I'd put on hold for 10 years to support his dream. It's on the provenance of stolen art, fittingly. I'm curating an exhibit. I'm teaching a seminar I love. I'm happy. It's a quiet, solid happiness. The kind that comes from the ground up, not the kind that's handed to you. I'm sitting in a small cafe near campus, surrounded by proofs for the exhibit. The light is warm. "Excuse me," a voice says. I look up. He's a man, not a type. He has kind eyes, a slightly rumpled linen shirt, and is holding a copy of the same obscure history journal I have on my table. "Sorry to bother you," he says. I've been trying to find a copy of that for weeks. Are you Dr. Davies?" My stomach twists. The name. "No," I say, and the word is freeing. "No, I'm Amelia. Just Amelia." I went back to my old name. Amelia Croft. His face brightens. Amelia Croft? The Amelia Croft, the one writing about the provenance of the Medici collection. I'm stunned. He knows my work. Not my husband. My work. Yes, I say, and for the first time in over a decade I smile. A real, warm, unguarded smile. "I'm Ben," he says. "I teach in the history department. I've been following your research. It's brilliant. Would you mind if I—" He gestures to the empty chair. "Please," I say. We started talking. And we just didn't stop. It wasn't a romance. It wasn't a spark. It was a conversation. A real one. I don't know what happened to Thomas. I heard, through Clara's lawyer, that the firm's lawsuit was successful. He was financially obliterated, and his name was poison in the industry. He had to move to a different state, take some menial job. He became what he'd always feared, a nobody. He tried to build a new life by tearing down mine. He didn't realize that I was the foundation. Without me holding him up, he was just nothing. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but this wasn't revenge. This was an audit. It was a final, meticulous, historical accounting of the truth. I didn't win by destroying him. I won by surviving him. I won by refusing to be the tragic, broken victim in his story. I won by becoming the author of my own. He left me at rock bottom. He forgot that rock bottom is the strongest foundation you can build on. I didn't just find the woman he tried to bury. I became her. Thank you so much for watching, for listening to my story. I hope it finds you well, wherever you are. Life can try to break you. People can try to erase you. But they only succeed if you let them. They only win if you accept the story they've written for you. If you've ever felt small, or invisible, or taken for granted, let me be the proof that your story is not over. It's just waiting for you to pick up the pen. This was my story. What did you think? Was the ending what you expected? Please, let me know in the comments below. I read them all. And if you're still here and you enjoyed it, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm discovering so many more stories to tell.